Hello and good morning. This is Jamie from Stonemeyer Games, and I am coming to you live from my home office here in St. Louis. Today is a big day. It's an e-newsletter day here at Stonemeyer Games, and if you're seeing this pop up in the Tapestry Facebook group, welcome. I'm sharing this in this group today because today I have announced the new expansion to Tapestry, and that is Tapestry Arts and Architecture. I have a few things I want to talk about on this box in a minute, but I'll come back and discuss that in a second. Obviously, I have taken the box lid off the top of the box because I'm really good at spoiling what's on the back of the box. So I don't want to do that today. Over the next 2 weeks, I will be revealing to you exactly the details of what's in this expansion, but I have given you kind of a general feel of what's in it by writing that on our website. So you can see on our website it says, choose from a variety of new capital city mats, a new advancement track featuring new types of cards and tiles, plus more civilizations, tapestry cards, tech cards, and landmark cards in the second expansion for Tapestry. And actually, I realized in that description, I don't mention that we have new landmark miniatures too, which I should probably put on there. I'll make a note about that right now. I won't discuss details of those things yet. I know you're curious. You feel free to ask. It's okay if you're curious. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I'm not going to spoil anything in particular today. But I'm going to talk about this box a little bit, some details on that box. There are some things that I need to mention. And before I forget, I'm going to add that there are miniatures in this game too. I did not mention that there are new landmark miniatures in that brief description, but I should mention that that's kind of a given for Tapestry expansions. So let's see if I have any questions real quick at the beginning here. JB says, is that a thinner version of the base box with the same width and length? It's the same type of cardboard, if that's what you're asking. The box is a little smaller. Here, I'll show it in comparison to the Rolling Realms box. Here's the Rolling Realms box. Rolling Realms box is, I believe, almost the same dimensions as the first Tapestry expansion. So you can see this expansion is a little bigger, some more stuff in this expansion than the original expansion. Although there's still a lot of stuff in Plans and Ploys too, if you haven't had the chance to try that one out yet. Chris always is very kind to ask how my cats and my dad are. My cats are doing well. Walter, you can't. There's Walter down there getting some water right now. But he's doing well, and my dad is doing well as well. Getting some fresh ocean air this week on a little mini vacation. Justin says, what led this new track being added now and not being in the base game? I'm going to go into the details about what the new track is on a future design diary post, but as for why it's not in the base game is because I didn't design it, I didn't even think about it, and that's a great segue into something that's important on this box, which is this expansion is co-designed by me and Mike Young. So Mike Young, I'll give you a very brief amount of background about this. I'll go into detail again in a future design diary post. But Mike Young is a fan of Tapestry, and he designed some modules for Tapestry that he posted on Board Game Geek a while back. And I discovered one of those modules in particular, the new track that Mike designed, and I thought it was really cool. The track that if you search for Board Game Geek for this track, you will probably find a very old version of it. It has changed a lot in the final version of the game, but I thought Mike had come up with something really, really clever, and I reached out to Mike, and we ended up co-designing this expansion together. Mike worked really hard on this expansion, put a lot of time and energy and creativity into this. And I really appreciate what he brought to this expansion. And so it was a lot of fun to collaborate with this and with Mike and to co-design this expansion with him. That's one of the details on the box that I wanted to mention today. Tony says, can you at least explain how the new track fits with the existing board alongside? Again, I'll discuss that in more detail later, but yeah, I mean, it's a new track. It looks like the old tracks, but it fits alongside the board. It doesn't replace anything on the board because all the tracks on the board are pretty important. You can't really play Tapestry without those tracks. Christopher says, what was my main goal when trying to create this expansion? I mean, my goal in general for any expansion is to add something new to a game without adding a lot of rules overhead. And so, like I mentioned a second ago, part of the origin story was I found this new track that Mike had designed, and I was like, oh, that's actually really interesting, and it doesn't complicate the game all that much. This is a clever way of adding a pretty new, robust thing to this game. So that was part of it. I'll go into later in a design diary post all kind of the guidelines that I went over with Mike. I wanted things that could be easily integrated into the game and that you didn't need to like pull out of the expansion every time you played if you just wanted to play the core game. Things that were easy enough that you could introduce them to a new player if you were teaching Tapestry. But there are a few things that you could selectively move out. So it's actually like very easy just to not play with the new track if you don't want to. And you can still leave all the other cards shuffled together. There are some cards that refer to that new track, but they're easily identified. And so if like you drew one of those cards, like a new tech card that refers to the new track, you could just set that card aside and draw another one. I know that this isn't exactly explaining your or answering your question, but in general, this is what I think of when I do a new expansion. Usually I'm inspired, oftentimes I'm inspired by someone else who has created something. I reach out to that person and I work with them to create something new that I think might be fun for people. Yeah, that's the general goal. If I think something new is going to be fun for fans of the game or might invite new people into the game, that's what drives me for creating expansions. The new box, Artur says, what a beautiful box. And yes, there's another thing I want to highlight about this box. Like in the core game and the expansion, the artist is Andrew Bosley. Hopefully, Andrew, if you're watching this, I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I know I've messed that up in the past and said Bosley, but I believe it is Bosley. Andrew Bosley is the expansion. And again, the sculptor for this expansion is the wonderful New Zealander, the Kiwi, Ram Brown. And speaking of Kiwis, I wanted to mention one little Easter egg on this box. I think this is the only Easter egg on the box. Actually, no, there's a couple that I'll talk about in a second. But right here, I decided to slip my girlfriend Megan into the art on the box, and Andrew was glad, or it was nice to do this. And I mentioned kiwis a second ago. There's a little kiwi on the ground next to Megan here. So this is Megan with some birds fluttering about her, and there's a little kiwi on the ground next to her because Megan likes kiwis. We went to New Zealand together a few years ago. So just a fun little Easter egg of putting Megan on the box there. I have one other Easter egg. I don't know if you mentioned it. Let me know in the comments if you can see it in the box. By the way, I've held it up so far. I'll come back to that in a few seconds. Let me jump over to the e-newsletter real quick, see if there's any important details. So one big detail right now is that you can help us a little bit if you go and sign up for a launch notification for the expansion. This is, actually I should have posted this link in the description here, but I didn't. So I will post it. So this is the link to the e-newsletter. And in the e-newsletter is a link to a launch notification request. That just helps us gauge kind of the demand for it. However, we've already made this expansion. It has actually already arrived at our warehouse. Not all of our warehouses, definitely our warehouse here in St. Louis that has arrived here. Our fulfillment centers in Australia, Canada, and the UK. I think one of them has also received it. The other two are incoming. Because of that, we are ready to launch the pre-order on December 1st. So that'll be the pre-order for it. And as I've indicated here, we've already made it. It's going to be at fulfillment centers by that time, so it'll ship right after that. If you're a champion, it'll ship right away after that. If you are any customer, not a champion, not a Stonemaier champion, you will be able to order it as well, and you'll get it probably in mid-December instead of early December. Shipping is going to be crazy during that time. December 1st is actually the last day we can really guarantee shipping for Christmas, to arrive before Christmas. So that'll be the day to pre-order it if you want to pre-order it. Hopefully we will also be able to still make deliveries after that on time, but we can't guarantee it at that point. That's what couriers have told us, at least here in the US. Anything else from the e-newsletter on the Tapestry expansion that I need to mention? Oh yeah, for those of you who are watching this who haven't played Tapestry, I hope you don't feel intimidated by all these expansions. There are 2 expansions. Again, the expansions are very easy to add to the core game, but if you're curious about it, if you're hearing about it for the first time and want to try Tapestry, we have put it for sale on our website starting now, and it will remain on sale through the end of the pre-order period in early December. So if you haven't tried Tapestry and you want to try it now, is a great time to get into it and give it a try. We hope, I really hope that you feel welcomed into the game. I designed the game to be very welcoming for people. As Civ games go, they can be a little intimidating to get into, but Tapestry has a very short rule book. It's very easy to get into and start playing. Chad, I think, has noticed the Easter eggs. I'm going to come back to that a little bit because Facebook is going to start scrolling too fast. Donna says, any chance for a storage solution for Tapestry to fit all in one box? Currently, Donna, we don't have one that we're making internally because it's possible there might be a 3rd expansion for Tapestry depending on how this one goes. So we don't want to make that prematurely. However, if you just take the insert out of the original Tapestry box, you can fit everything in the core box. I know it's kind of hard to give up an insert that we designed specifically for those miniatures, but that's one way to get everything to fit. JB says, are the purple icons in the blurred photo you shared in the Champion update related to the new track or potentially new income buildings tied to it? The new track is purple, so those icons are tied to the new track. Yeah. David says, is the Automa going to have major changes or additional campaigns, or is it more of just adapting the existing one to use the new track? That's a great question. I'll let Morton talk about that in a future Design Diary post because Morton is our Automa specialist. Yeah. Socrates says, will this be the final expansion for Tapestry? I mentioned this a second ago, but I'm behind on comments. We don't know. I am hoping this expansion does well. I am super excited about it, but it's hard to tell exactly when a product has kind of reached its peak or when we've kind of reached the end of it. Hard to know yet. So we will see how this expansion does based on these pre-order requests that we receive, the pre-order launch notifications. That's one of the ways that those will help us if you want to sign up for that. And how pre-orders actually go. And if there seems to be still high interest for maybe one more expansion, we will consider one more. We have a few ideas that I floated around with Mike and another designer actually that we might be pursuing. But yeah, it depends on how this expansion does. Giovanni says, do the miniatures fare well with wear and tear if you remove the insert from the main box, like chips and paint and such? You know, I haven't removed mine. I've kept all my expansion boxes, so I haven't really tested that, but maybe someone in the comments can chime in. I think they probably hold up pretty well. They seem very durable to me, and there's a special coating on the outside of the miniatures to keep that paint in. But let me know if anyone's done that, if you think they've held up well. Tony says, so does this new track open the door for more expansion tracks where maybe you can add or remove them from your game? The mind reels with the possibilities. I think it is possible, but I mean, adding a new track definitely does add. I mean, it increases the choices by what, 20%? Because currently you have 4 different tracks. You can, on any given turn, you can advance on one of those tracks. Now there's a whole new track in this expansion. So it does add a bit of mental overload. Not too much, but a little bit. I think that track is good if you have played Tapestry a few times. So adding even more tracks, like a 6th track, is not something I really want to pursue. The potential of adding another new track is possible. I don't know what realm of civilization building we would go into for yet another track, but it isn't something that we have designed. I really have no ideas for it, but I will say it's not impossible given what Mike showed me with this new track. Dave says, is there a new science die to allow you to randomly advance on the new track, or is it separate in that regard? That is a great question, Dave. You're thinking deep about this, and I'll just spoil it and say, yeah, there is a new science die in this expansion. Why not? Apparently, I'm a little spoiler happy today. Before I get too far, I don't want to forget my chocolate of the day. We got to always remember our treats of the day. I went to Trader Joe's the other day and picked up these crispy peanut butter with milk chocolate peanuts. They are really, really good. I've had them once before. I forgot how good they are, but I highly recommend them. This is my chocolate treat of the day. And let me know what you are indulging in today as well. I do have other topics to cover today, but I'm loving the Tapestry questions. I'll focus on them for a little while, and then I'll come back to some other things in the newsletter. Chad says, how often do you check the Board Game Geek post and comments on my games? I would say around 10 times a day, so maybe every hour, roughly. Archer says, is the video lagging sometimes only for me? He says, waiting for the video signal appears sometimes really minor, but wanting to report. Thank you for letting me know. I'm seeing myself live here on camera right now, so I don't see a lag, but it is possible. Yeah. All right, Facebook, skip past some stuff. If I do miss your question, unless it's a huge spoiler question, I'm not skipping it intentionally. Let's see. Someone else, Laura says that she's getting a little lag too. I'm sorry about that. Oh, Walter's getting a little feisty over here. Danny says, any plans for a big box to fit the base game and both expansions into? I don't think we will do that for Tapestry because Tapestry's original box is already so big. Really all you have to do is take out the original insert and you can fit everything in there. It is possible at some point if we know that we are done making Tapestry stuff that maybe we will come out with an insert solution that you can put into that original box. But even then I don't know quite how it will fit because I just think in this case, the simplest solution is probably just to remove the original insert because we did make that core box so big. Archer says, do you think we'll be able to order the Wingspan European expansion in November? Is it because yeah, so the explanation of this is part of the e-newsletter here, is that we had some shipping containers that were scheduled to arrive in early October. And at that time, excuse me, we started accepting pre-orders, or were essentially orders, because we thought they were going to arrive for Wingspan European, for Scythe, Metal Mech, some other stuff too. Wingspan Oceania, the neoprene mats for Wingspan, a lot of stuff. And then those containers, somehow, this has never happened before, they got unscheduled and were then buried under other containers at port. And so what was going to be an early October delivery has turned into an I don't know situation. I hope they will be unburied soon. I'm hoping now, like every day I wake up hoping to get that email saying they are unburied, they're on their way. But those products are made, they are at port, and this is the US issue. In other areas of the world, they might have already arrived. I think in the UK they are incoming soon, but the US is where we have that buried shipment issue. All right, Facebook is definitely scrolling past some questions here, so you might have to repeat the questions. I'm going to scroll down a little bit so Facebook doesn't skip anything else. If I missed your question, please repeat it in the comments. I'm not intentionally ignoring it. Eric says, where are we at with the Wingspan nesting box? We are just waiting for the next Wingspan expansion to be ready so we can pack it inside that box. We're going to sell the box separately and the expansion separately and the two combined together. So really, it's ready to go. We're just waiting for that expansion. Matt says, is the new track a physical mat? Everyone's fascinated by this new track. I promise you I'll go into details on the track. Maybe I'll do that with my first design diary post tomorrow. But yes, it is a new physical board off to the side. Hendrik also said, will we get a new science die? I did spoil that and said, yes, there is a new science die. Gary says, will the new buildings be color-coded for the track? The buildings in Tapestry aren't actually color-coded based on tracks. They're color-coded based on eras. And so that is a theme that we continued with this expansion. Cynthia from MeepleSource chimed in today. Thanks, Cynthia, for sharing your excitement for this new expansion. Let's see. I'm just looking for questions right now. Sorry if I skip any other comments. Kevin says, does this mean there is a new resource associated with the new track? No, there is no. You're right. There is a resource associated with each of the original tracks. There is not a new resource associated with the new track. Chris says, is this new box about the same size of the Oceania box from Wingspan? The box comparison, it's a little bigger, I would say. So here's the best comparison. Here's that I have handy here. Here's Rolling Realms next to the Tapestry expansion box. Rolling Realms is the size of the original Tapestry expansion. Speaking of Rolling Realms, I've really been enjoying doing the live plays of one round at a time on Facebook Live. So if you're joining me on Facebook Live today and you find this enjoyable, I do this for 15 minutes every couple days for Rolling Realms. I pull out 3 realms and I just randomly play along. It takes about 15 minutes and you can play along live or you can play against me later on YouTube. Been having a lot of fun with that. So if you have Rolling Realms, you haven't done that, feel free to play against me, try to beat my score. If you don't have Rolling Realms, it's $20. It's on our web store right now. We'll ship it to you right away and you can play along against me. I've just been having a lot. I've been having more fun than I thought. I knew I liked the game, but playing along live, because it's so simple to pop online and play for a few minutes and see what other people are doing, I've just really been enjoying that. Darren says his chocolate treat today is homemade chocolate brownies. Ooh, that's even better than my chocolate treat of the day. Tony says, well, those of us who purchased extra dice sets for each player have their own, will they be able to purchase multiple new science dice? Not right off the bat, Tony, because we need to make sure that we have enough like replacement parts and things like that. But I can see us doing that on our web store in the future. In fact, I'll make a note of that in case I don't have a note of that elsewhere. I will make a note of that right now. And it's possible. I guess it's possible we could do that for the original release. We'll see. We'll see how many we have. Gerben says, considering there's often a race to get the landmarks from different tracks, how does this play out when there's a whole other track to focus on? Will players end up with more landmarks on average compared to the base game? Yeah, that's a good question. So again, I'll go into more detail on this when I talk about the new track. But this is with the new track, because there is another track and more landmarks on that track. And higher player counts where maybe you normally would have to really race or you might totally miss out on landmarks. Now in 5-player games, everyone could really focus on their own track and end up getting a landmark. So that's one of the bonuses of adding a 5th track to Tapestry. In a 5-player game, it gives that 5th player a chance, more of a chance of getting more landmarks than they originally would have. Yeah, that's a great point. You all really know Tapestry well. I'm very impressed by these questions. Christoph says, when will the new expansion be available in Europe? At the same time as everywhere else. We will have the pre-order on December 1st. It'll ship from fulfillment centers in the US, the UK, Australia, and Canada. And the retail release date will be a few months after that. Again, worldwide release date. Giovanni says, have you ever thought about adding track variations for the main board? He says, I played Tapestry a couple times and never felt too incentivized to get up on the science track early on. That's actually the exact opposite of my strategy. I always go after science really, really early in the game. And no, I don't. I have thought about it, but I don't think, at least as a core element of expansion, I don't think that I will modify the core tracks. I think there are a lot of variables in Tapestry. You have the dice rolls, you have the card draws, you have the tech cards, you have your civilizations, you have all these different variables. I think it's important for some things to remain static. And you have the exploration tiles. And I think that the tracks are one thing that will remain static in Tapestry. Tim says he looks forward to teaching Tapestry to more people. Thank you, Tim, for sharing Tapestry with other people. All right. I've caught up a little bit on questions. I did want to highlight a little bit today that we're doing something new. We're trying something new on months where we don't have a pre-order. I'm going to do a featured product of the month, or at least we'll experiment with this for a little while. And the first featured product of the month are the Wingspan speckled eggs. So if you want more eggs for Wingspan, more colors, more eggs that look a little bit more like real life bird eggs, our product of the month is Wingspan speckled eggs. That means that A, they're going to be on sale, and B, everyone who orders speckled eggs this month will be entered into a random drawing. I'm going to pick 5 people at the end of November who will receive who have ordered the speckled eggs in November, and they will receive a $50 gift card to the Stonemaier Games web store. And also, you don't even have to order the speckled eggs. You might already have the speckled eggs. And if you have that, there's a link in our e-newsletter, which you can check out on our website. It's on the news section. I put it in the comments here. There are other ways to find it too. Hopefully you subscribe to it. You can just fill out a form. It's on the e-newsletter, and you can be entered in that same drawing to have a chance at a $50 gift card. So you can buy the speckled eggs now and be entered in that drawing, or just fill out the form. And one person who fills out the form will be in the drawing. 5 people who buy the speckled eggs in November will be entered into that drawing. Chad says, just wanted to mention how much I appreciate you adding arts and architecture into Tapestry. I feel these are essential in a thriving civilization. Thanks, Chad. They actually did make an appearance in the original game, but it's one of those very subtle income tracks instead of a fully robust track. Mark says, what can we know about the arts and architecture? Everything I'm talking about today, Mark. I will be sharing all the details over the next 2 weeks. Let me see if there's anything else in the box. Yeah, the last thing I wanted to mention about the box that I think Chad noticed it a minute ago. Look at the building spec here. Do these look familiar to you? Actually, this one may not, but this one should look familiar. This one should look familiar as well. That might hint at a little bit of the types of landmarks that you might find in Tapestry arts and architecture. Eric says, have I announced the name of the Wingspan expansion? No, far from it. Today, I'm talking about the Tapestry expansion, arts and architecture. This is our focus today. The Wingspan expansion will be much later next year. Unless I slip up, it'll remain a secret for quite some time. Tatten, repeating your question. Yeah, thank you. If I missed your question, Facebook sometimes scrolls past them too fast. If I missed it, feel free to repeat it here. Tatten says he found it really cool that Mike's original variant in BGG became official. Or at least a version of it. Mike did create an arts track. The final version is pretty different from what he originally created, but you can see the origins of it on BoardGameGeek. He says, how different is it from the fan-made variant? Oh yeah, that's what I'm explaining right now. I would say pretty different. We'll show it. I'll show it on tomorrow's Design Diary post so you can see the difference between the two. Yeah. Danny says, changes to Automa needed, question mark. Automa always has additional things in our expansions, and Morton will talk about that on a Design Diary post. Tim says, have I written all the Design Diaries yet? No, I write them day to day. So tomorrow morning I will wake up and whatever I want to write about, I will write about that day. And in that way I can remain flexible. So if I see a lot of questions come up about a certain topic, like I'm seeing today, a lot of questions about the new advancement track, that's the topic I will cover in the first Design Diary post, and I'll branch off from there. Mark says, will there be cards that will be replaced with the new expansion? Nope, nothing will be replaced. There's only added stuff in the new expansion. At least as far as I can remember, I can't recall anything that we're replacing here. Richard has a fun question that's not related to Tapestry. He says, what are my thoughts on the World Series of board games? Especially since Wingspan was chosen as one of the games. I actually didn't know Wingspan was chosen as one of the games. They didn't mention that to me. That's pretty cool. I think it's neat. I think our games aren't really designed for that type of competition. They're designed for competitive play. Our games are all competitive so far, but but if they find a way to make it work in a competitive environment that people can have fun with, I'm all for that. Yeah. One other thing I wanted to mention was some questions about Automa here with Tapestry. Morton revealed today in a post on Board Game Geek, and I put a link in the newsletter here, that while Rolling Realms was in production, he actually designed another solo mode for Rolling Realms. So people seem to be really loving the putt-putt, the mini golf version of the Automa mode in Rolling Realms. So that's in the game, that's in the box. You don't have to print anything out. But he designed another solo mode because he had another idea, and he has now revealed and announced and made it available for anyone to print at home. It's not something that we'll include in Rolling Realms, but it's very easy to print and play from home if you want to try out the new solo mode that Morton has announced. That link is on Board Game Geek. It's in our newsletter. It's also on the Rolling Realms FAQ page on our website. I believe that's where I put it. Also, one other thing from the newsletter I should emphasize a little bit is, and I'll say that I said this before, but if you want to order something from us or really from anyone to arrive guaranteed by Christmas, please order on or before December 1st, because many couriers are saying December 1st is the last day they can absolutely guarantee that the shipments will arrive in time for Christmas. I think it's probably pretty likely that something ordered on December 2nd or 3rd will probably make it, but they can only guarantee it if the order is placed by December 1st. Yeah. Ricardo says, do I have any idea if the new expansion will be translated in Italian? Offhand, I can't remember which of our localization partners joined in the first printing. I think Genos generally does that, so I think it's pretty likely, but I don't know offhand. You'll have to ask Genos if they did. Hossein says, are there any new miniatures in the box? And yes, there are some new miniatures in the new Tapestry expansion. There are indeed. I will show them soon. Archer recommends a video game called Hades. He says it's one of the best games design-wise I've ever played. He says it's action-heavy, which is generally not my cup of tea, as Archer says, but I still wanted to recommend. So many ideas, so rewarding. You lose most of the time and still want to come back. That's interesting. I have watched some review videos about Hades. It was really hot, I think, a few months ago, and maybe it still is for people who are enjoying it. But yeah, thank you for letting me know about that, and maybe I will check that out. I have a few board games queued up, or video games queued up on my list to check out. Just shorter games. I don't play a lot of video games at all. The games that I have bought on Steam and want to play are Into the Breach, 8-Minute Empire, and A Short Hike. Those are the ones that I need to play, but I haven't. Whenever I sit down and just want to play them or have time to play them, I decide to design games instead. So generally, most of my free time is taken up by game design. Jamey also asked about a Spanish version of the expansion, and again, for now, that is something for Maldito to announce. So feel free to ask Maldito Games if they are printing a Spanish version of if they are making a Spanish version of it. We'll be doing the actual printing of it. Tim says, have I considered making a pack of components for a 6-player available for those who dare to spend the extra time for a longer game? I kind of decided a while ago that I wasn't going to do that. I mean, originally that was the plan, but a 6-player in the first expansion. And then even at 5 players, Tapestry can overstay its welcome a little bit. And so I don't think we're really going to officially encourage in any way that people play Tapestry with 6 players. Yeah. Lots of questions today. I'm way behind, so sorry if you're waiting to hear from my answer. Fenric says, am I right if I think there won't be a Hungarian retail version of the expansion? Again, that's a good question for our Hungarian partner. I think maybe that's Delta Vision for this game, but I don't know offhand. But feel free to ask if there is a Hungarian version of Tapestry. Ask that publisher if they're going to make it. They'll be able to tell you. Tony says, he played Tapestry last night and played with only 3 players instead of the usual 4. We noticed that everyone scored more points with fewer players. Is that a known effect of the game? And if so, will it be mitigated by another track being available? Like someone observed earlier, you can get more landmarks at higher player counts and even at lower player counts, but more so at higher player counts with the Tapestry expansion, with adding the new track and 3 new landmarks on that track. And new landmarks lead to more points. They lead to more resource bonuses, extending the game. So yeah, basically I think it's the more landmarks you get in general, the more points you're going to have. Although some Tapestry experts may disagree with that. I think there are people at this point who have played Tapestry way more than I have. So I'm curious what the Tapestry experts think about that. Chris says, will you tell us about the story of meeting or working with Mike Young? How different is the final design from his prototype? So Mike, as far as I can recall, I'll have to go back and look at my notes when I write tomorrow's design diary post. Mike had only designed the new track, although there were some components to go along with that track. The final version varies quite a bit from what he originally created. I worked with him quite a bit to develop that aspect of the game. But I can say working with Mike was a joy, an absolute joy. He was responsive, he was creative, he brought so many great ideas to the table and great execution too. Mike is a playtester at heart. He played the heck out of Tapestry with this new expansion. So it was a joy to, and I also got to, I don't always even meet the people that I work with. Mike did attend the Stonemaier Games Design Day a few months ago, well after the design for the expansion was complete. And so I got to meet Mike and hang out with him a little bit, and he's a great guy. He was really, really great to work with. Dusty also recommends Hades as a great game to play. So maybe I'll dig a little deeper into Hades and watch some more videos on that. Thank you guys for the recommendation. Hendrik says, well, with the new track giving extra buildings, will architects get nerfed? I don't know offhand. Well, I will say this. Any changes that we made to existing civilizations, accounting for data that we learned during Tapestry Arts and Architecture playtesting, are already accounted for on the updated Civ adjustment sheet. So if I don't know, I can't remember if there was an expansion, if there was an adjustment to architects, but if there needed to be one, there is one, and it was already implemented in the update I posted a few months ago. Those Civ adjustments will also be printed and included in the expansion box, as we usually do with Tapestry expansions. So I'm getting a little, need some water. Richard repeated his question. Let's see. I'm looking for new questions here. Gary says, have I announced the price for the expansion? No, I haven't. No. The price we usually just wait to reveal on pre-order day. But as you can see, it's a little bigger than the original expansion, so it's going to be a little more expensive than the original expansion. Kevin says, are all the photos for this new expansion taken by Tim Chuan? And yes, they were. Tim is an amazing photographer. We've worked with some great photographers over the years, and currently we work with Tim. And yeah, Tim has done a great job with the photos for the Tapestry expansion. Those will be the photos that I'll be using in the upcoming design diary posts. I need to make a note real quick because I don't want to forget about this, but one of you asked a great question about getting new extra landmarks. And I need to also find what Mike's original version of the track looked like. I think I have a photo of it somewhere, but I'll need to hunt it down. Carlos says, how do I measure success of a second expansion? It should come close to the sales of the first expansion or boost sales of the original game. My hope is that it will always bring more attention to a game and maybe help reignite sales for the original game. That's always my hope for any expansion. For success in general, I mean, we made a certain amount of the expansion. If we sell a decent percentage of the amount, that to me is a successful, is one measure of success. In the end, I just want to make people happy. I want to bring joy to your tabletops, whether or not you have played Tapestry in the past or you are new to Tapestry. That is the goal. And the more tabletops we can bring that joy to, the better. So that's kind of what we look for in measuring success of an expansion. Or really any product. Bajan says, what was the inspiration behind the expansion? Was it anything you wanted to fix? No, I didn't go into the expansion with thinking like, this is a thing that I want to fix about Tapestry. It was more like I saw Mike's new track on, so Mike, my co-designer, co-designed a fan module, a new track, put it on Board Game Geek, and I saw it and I was like, wow, he really did a great job with this. And the ancillary components it incorporates, how well it incorporates into the core game. And so we kind of took that and modified it and tested it and branched off from there and creating some new stuff. So that was the inspiration, really. Mark said almost the identical question right after Bijan posted it. Shannon says, will the expansion allow for more players? No, it won't. Yeah, I mentioned this a few minutes ago with Tim's question. I decided fairly early on, after playing 5-player Tapestry multiple times, that 5-player Tapestry, I think, is as many players as you would ever want to play a Tapestry. So we aren't going to add a 6-player to it. Even though that was originally my hope, I just think it overstays the game's welcome a little bit too long. It adds a little bit too much downtime. And yeah, so we're not going to add a 6-player to it. Sean says the current advancement tracks balance each other. Will there be another track to balance the new one? I would say the fifth track. I mean, that was something we took into account with the fifth track, where it needed to point at the other tracks and have relations to the other tracks, even though those other tracks couldn't be modified to point back at the original track. So I wouldn't say there is really a balance issue, even though, like you're saying, that because there's an odd number, but that isn't really a thing for there to be an odd number. Like it's yeah, it's just, I would say it's not a balance issue to have a fifth track and not a sixth track. We have no plans of making a sixth track. Dusty says that some cards, some Automa cards will be replaced. Okay, thank you, Dusty, for mentioning that. Okay. Tatin says, what's at the top of my Christmas wish list? I don't know. I don't really look for Christmas presents anymore. I more for Christmas experiences, like a good meal. I'd love to have a good meal around Christmas time. But anything that I really want, I typically just buy. Presents aren't really my my love language, unless they're chocolate. Chocolate, I do love chocolate, and so chocolate in many different forms. Fancy chocolates, that would be a nice Christmas gift. Yeah, that's kind of my exception to my gift preferences. Giovanni says, ever thought about expanding on the space tiles? I'm thinking spaceships and portals to other people's space tiles. You know, it is kind of it's an oddly abstract version of the game where you kind of go off to the side and have these space tiles that don't look at each other adjacently or anything like that. Maybe something for the third expansion, yeah. In the first expansion, there are new space tiles, but there's really still no spatial game there. But it also kind of makes sense for space. Unlike the world where you kind of have this, you have a limited amount of space. In outer space, you don't have that element. So I think it thematically makes kind of sense that they're kind of floating around. There's no adjacency with those tiles. I don't know. We'll see. Chad says, looks like the box has a blue top edge. Yeah. I've been hesitant to show you this one edge. I'll show you real quick. So here's the different sides of the box. Been hesitant to show you this side a little bit because it got a little dented. My copy is a little dented here, but this is not indicative of the final product you'll be receiving. But those are the various sides of the box. Edgar says, did I miss the announcement? The announcement is ongoing. It's also in our e-newsletter today, and I think I've covered all the different topics in our e-newsletter. Feel free to let me know. If you're reading the e-newsletter and you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Oh, we do. We're working with a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant, a friend of mine, but also someone who is very knowledgeable in ways that I'm still learning about. And Lydia Waymeyer is now posting on a regular basis on the Black, Indigenous, People of Color, and diversity, equity, and inclusion page of the Stonemaier Games website. So if that's something that's interesting to you, feel free to check it out. Or even if it's not interesting to you, but you want to learn more, you want to be a more inclusive person, as I'm trying to be, feel free to check that out. I think you'll learn a little bit about what she's and she's posted just a little snippets. It won't take a lot of time. It's in the expandable portion of that page, which is under the About section of our website. Yeah. Mose says, is the new track going to be added next to the board, or are you going to give us a brand new board like in Tuscany? No. As you can see, this box is, well, you can't really tell, but this box is smaller than the Tapestry box. It is a board that is added next to the Tapestry board. Yeah, it would take a huge reconfiguration, I think, of the original board to fit a fifth track on there somehow. Patrick says, have I played Anachrony? What are your thoughts? I have played Anachrony. I actually just mentioned it in a video that I filmed yesterday that will go on my YouTube channel in a few weeks. And yeah, I think Anachrony has two things that I really, really love about it. I love that you're putting workers in mechs to go explore the outside area or go to worker places outside your kind of hub. And I love the idea of sending yourself something from the future, like sending yourself resources from the future. It feels really good, but then knowing that you need to have those resources when you get to that point in the future to be able to make sense to send them back to you in the first place. I think that's really cool about the game. Other games that I haven't played that recently, but I did play Wavelength on Halloween. I played Dune Imperium again recently. I actually won Dune Imperium for the first time ever. That was awesome. One of my favorite games right now, and so it's really cool to win it. I've been playing a lot of Rolling Realms, round by round, live here on Facebook Live, and then putting them on YouTube later. My video this past weekend was about games to play on Halloween. So it's a little bit too late to play them now, but if you're curious about games that have a lot of tension or a spooky nature to them, that's what I focused on for this video. My recent blogs were about, again, on the Halloween theme, horror stories from shipping. I shared some horror stories from freight shipping recently, and how to make an introduction to between two people over email. I talked about that last week. Oh, I have a feisty little kitty here. Walter wants to come say hi and talk about the new expansion. Walter's favorite element of the expansion is that, what is your new expansion? That there are birds on the box. Walter loves watching birds from our windows. Let me give Walter a little nibble real quick. Here we go. There we go. He gets feisty during these videos. Oh, Mike is actually here in the comments. Thanks, Mike, for jumping in here today. I know you're very busy right now, but yeah, my co-designer for the Tapestry expansion and the inspiration and the driving force really behind this expansion, Mike Young, is here in the comments. Let's see. I'm just looking for other questions here. Jay says he thinks it's time for a new box for Tapestry. And my answer to that so far has been that the original Tapestry box, I think, is going to be big enough to hold everything that we ever make for Tapestry, as long as you remove that original insert. So that's, I think, the current path that we'll take. We'll see if that changes in the future, but that's what I'm saying right now. Anton says, is this easy to learn like Plans Employees was so that new players can play with it right away? I would say, for the most part, yes. I love that about expansions, when you can just mix everything in and never have to worry about separating it for different players. The only maybe exception to that is the new track. So for a first game of Tapestry, I probably wouldn't play with the new track, and that does correlate to two other components in the game, but they're very easy to say, okay, we're not going to play with these components. We're not going to play with the track this game. Everything else you can definitely shuffle in and play with new or experienced players. Yeah. Austin says, any word on the painted Red Rising pieces? They are made. They're in these boats that are buried in the U.S. So we are just waiting for those. Not the boats. The containers are buried at port right now. And so as soon as those containers are released and make it to our fulfillment center, we will have the painted pieces for Red Rising. I'm so sorry that's taking too long, but at this point, I don't know what to think about these containers. It's just bewildering to me that they are literally like they were ready to go. They were scheduled for delivery in early October. And then they got moved to a different facility and then were buried under other containers. And I don't know. I had this kind of helpless feeling for the last month that there's nothing that we can do. And I don't even know if they'll be unburied at any point. At some point, surely they must be. But if they're at the bottom of the stack, I don't know. I hope soon. I hope very soon they're unburied and they're shipped to our fulfillment center. Arthur says, what do I think about Lords of Hellas and this new Lords of Ragnarok? Any chance you'll back it? I did play the original Lords of Hellas. I thought the creation of the kind of the monuments I thought was really, really cool. But I'm looking back because I know Biddy's going to start stealing food in a second. But yeah, I don't know. It was a cool game, but not really up my alley. Which is odd to say because it does have some similarities to Scythe. But there was, I don't know, I played it once, which I think is indicative of how I felt about the game. I learned from it, and I wasn't really intrigued to return to it again. But it does look beautiful. They make beautiful games over at Awaken Realms. And I think they did learn from the original game and modified the new game a little bit. I'm going to grab the food before Biddy starts to eat it. You want to say hi too? Yeah, both cats saying hi today. Here's Biddy. You want to say hi, Biddy? Yeah, okay. Gary says that he has a few games that he hasn't gotten to the table yet. How many do I have? On my shelf of opportunity right now, I have around 10 games. Around 10 games right now. It's getting harder to... So I was a little spoiled for a while because my coworker, Joe, part of his original job was to learn games and teach them to me, which was really nice. But Joe has moved to Reno. And so I'm definitely missing that aspect of Joe. Joe can do most of his job anywhere in the world except for that one piece. So I'm missing that a little bit. But I have a stack of games that I am looking forward to playing and learning in the near future. Hamam says, will there be a new die for the science track, which includes the new track? Yes. This is a little thing that I spoiled today. Someone asked about it, and I decided to answer. Yes, there is a new die in the game, a new science die. Muhammad says, has the pricing been confirmed? No. It will be revealed on pre-order day on December 1st. Giovanni says we'll have to play. Oh, sorry, just a nice comment, no question. Just I'm focusing on questions today because I'm so far behind here. Tim says, any updates on the Android version of Tapestry and Wingspan? Let's see if Tim is in the comments here to answer that. That's entirely up to Tim to announce and reveal. Oh, you asked for Tapestry, and Wingspan is a Monster Couch question. Monster Couch, I believe the Android version is either available or will be available very, very soon. But that's, again, for Monster Couch to know. I know at the same time that you know about that kind of stuff. David says, I often watch your Sunday videos and recently played the Civilization board game and Seven Wonders Duel and was wondering if you have ever done a Sunday sit-down featuring games with multiple win conditions. That's a good question, David. I've definitely done a couple videos about end game conditions, but multiple win, and I think I have done multiple paths to victory. I would say probably within those two, you'll find what you're looking for. So look for like end game conditions, and multiple paths to victory videos. I think I have either one or both of those somewhere. Edgar says, was this planned as a Christmas release or did it just end up that way? Ideally, really, we wouldn't be shipping anything in early December other than, so no, it's definitely not planned for that. It's really, honestly, Edgar, it's kind of become hard for us to plan ahead for any actual dates. We just kind of make products, and when they're ready, when they show up, that's when we set the schedules for them. So that's why even up until last week, I wasn't sure. Well, I was sure I was going to start talking about the Tapestry expansion, but I wasn't sure if we would do the pre-order in December. We're doing it because I already know that some of the containers of the expansion have arrived at fulfillment centers. But it's such an uncertain, weird time with production and even more so freight shipping right now that I prefer to wait until everything actually arrives at our fulfillment center. Before we start selling it. And that's even a great reminder with these containers that got buried recently. It's a great reminder that even if something is scheduled to be delivered, that is not the same as it is actually being delivered. Yeah. Tatton says that he loves what Andrew Bosley brought to the game. And Sean did identify that this looks like that pendulum clock tower. You were right about that, Sean. Mark says, am I allowed to ask about the new game that's nearing completion, the one in the Champion newsletter? I don't reveal that type of information in advance. You're welcome to be curious about it, Mark. Absolutely, I appreciate your curiosity. But when I'm ready to reveal something like today I was ready to reveal Tapestry Arts and Architecture. That's when I will reveal it. Yeah. Nathan says, when we talked to Geekway, you told me that you hadn't played Anno 1800 yet. Have you had a chance to play it yet? I have not yet, no. I have some friends that played it at Geekway and loved it, and I think they're getting it, and so hopefully I'll play it with them in the near future. Just scrolling through. Giovanni says something here that I wouldn't actually say is true, so I'm going to hide that, Giovanni. Tim says, what's some of your favorite South Korean films? I just finished Squid Game. What a roller coaster. We watched Squid Game ourselves fairly recently, and we're definitely caught up in that for about a week. Favorite South Korean films? I don't know, none are coming to mind offhand. I have definitely watched some of them. There was the one that came out, I'm forgetting the name of it, that came out a year or so ago. I think it was 2 years ago. Where I liked like the first half of the movie, but then it got really, really violent in the second half, and I didn't enjoy that as much. Yeah, I don't know. If you have any suggestions, let me know. I probably watched more Japanese films than South Korean films. Dusty says, you mentioned that gifts aren't your love language. This is something that we've been learning about each other in my family. Yeah, I love the love language. That's great that you're talking about it. Dusty says, my wife and kids all took the love language quiz. Do you have just one love language, or am I bilingual? Let's see. I have like kind of an ongoing ranking list on my blog because I keep adding like new love languages. Oh, no, I misspelled it. Might not come up. Love language. Nope. Love. All right. Okay. What are my love language rankings? Yeah. Okay. So here's my current love language rankings. For those who don't know this concept, this is love languages are kind of like the way that you most feel loved. When someone does this to you, you feel really loved, opposed to something lower down on the list where you may not feel as loved. And this is often confusing for people because, say, you might feel really loved when someone gives you a gift. And so you feel really, really good about that. And so it might become your instinct to give gifts to other people, but that may not actually be their love language. So you kind of have to fight against your own instincts a little bit and increase your awareness of other people and how they feel loved. And then you have hopefully a stronger relationship there. My love language rankings right now, and the list has changed over time. Right now, at the top of the list are words of affirmation, then acts of service, quality time, chocolate. You'll see that I've added some of my own love languages to this list. Support of presence, physical touch, like hugs, things like that. Thinking of you, which is another one that I added. Gifts are at number 8, and quantity time is at number 9. A while ago, I differentiated quality time and quantity time. Quality time is like when you have a really, like when you maybe play a game with someone or you have a really great conversation with someone. Whereas quantity time is just kind of like being with someone for a long period of time, just for the sake of being with them, even if you're not having a quality conversation with them or doing anything of quality in that time. Like sitting in the car with someone for 10 hours, someone might really feel really loved by that because they just get a ton of time with you, even if you're sitting there in silence for a lot of the time. Whereas someone else might really like a 30-minute car drive where you have a great conversation the entire time. Yeah. Big topic there, whole different topic there. I'll actually post a link to that in case anyone wants to dig a little deeper into this love language thing. Here's my blog post about it. Tim says, have I played Iron Harvest? I haven't played it. No, I haven't played Iron Harvest. This is the 1920 plus alternate history game that's in the same world as Scythe that we have no connection to as some of our games. Laura says, what's the best place to find people to play Scythe on Tabletop Simulator with? She says, I love Scythe, and I have both the physical game and the TTS game, but my friends all find the game too thinky for them. I would say the Scythe Facebook group is a great place to post about that. And you might even learn some other resources there about times to kind of have matchmaking in that system. I also think the Scythe, like this, the full AI version of the game which is on Steam, is a great way to play it because then you don't have to deal with kind of the fiddliness of the tabletop simulator version. It's fine. It's great if you're willing to deal with that. But the Steam version you can play against the AI and it can matchmake you with other players in real time. Russell says, how does the new die interact with the Push Your Luck faction, the same one where you roll the die until you roll the same track? I'll go into the new die in a little bit, Russell, so you can see, like you'll be able to see how it impacts the math a little bit. But similar to the new track, it adds, like there's one new track, and so we added those faces to the die to a new science die. Yeah. Tony says, will there be a new rebalancing sheet to adjust the previous civilizations against the new ones in the expansion? I mentioned this a little bit earlier. There is, and we've actually already posted it. So that the tapestry updates that I posted a few months ago, the civilization adjustments, I posted on our website a few months ago, and they are also included in the expansion. So we've already made them, essentially. Miroslav says, at first it was hinted that this would be a bigger expansion, but from the first glance it looks as if this will be roughly the same scope as plans and ploys. When do we take that proverbial bigger leap? With this expansion, it is accurate to say that this expansion is bigger than the original expansion. So in the original expansion, the only new thing we added were the landmark cards. In this expansion, we add a whole new track, and that new track also comes with a new set of cards and a new set of tiles. So this is the big new expansion. It is also a more stuff expansion, and also we do something with capital cities that is very new, that feels more than just like adding more capital cities. So this is the time, Miroslav. This is the bigger leap right now. It's happening with Tapestry, with arts and architecture. Giovanni says, what game from my shelf of opportunity am I most itching to play? I would say Floating World right now. I'm really eager to play. I'm looking over here. And the new Shards of Infinity expansion. Those are the two that I'm really, really itching to play. What about you? Anyone else? Anyone is free to mention that. Oh, Tim is mentioning some South Korean movies. Parasite is the one that I was forgetting. Old Boy I also did enjoy. Very violent. But I did enjoy that. And there's a one that's set on a train that I'm forgetting the name of too, that I think is pretty good. I may have corrected something incorrectly. Thank you, Richard, for mentioning that. Ian says, does this work without the first expansion? Yes. One of the things that we like to do with some of our games is make each expansion completely independent of each other, even though they can also be combined with each other. So you do not need plans and employees to get arts and architecture. Or you can get plans and employees and arts and architecture. They can combine together well. Let's see, I may have misplaced something over here. Yeah, you're right. Thank you, Richard, for noticing that. I think that was Richard who noticed it. A little typo on the fly. That's why I shouldn't correct things on the fly here. I'm sorry. Laura mentioned that my audio is kind of coming in and out. I'm sorry about that. Maybe in the future I won't post this to a group at the same time. I'm sorry about that. Hopefully most of you can hear me okay. If not, I'm really sorry. I can hear myself fine right now, but I can't tell that you can't, other than what you're saying here. Tony says Eternals this weekend. Is there? Am I going to watch Eternals this weekend? The movie? I don't know. I still have not returned to theaters during the pandemic, so I do have my booster shot. I got my booster shot about a week ago. I'm feeling great, but to sit in a movie theater with a mask for a long time and with a lot of people there, I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. Yeah. Sean says that learning his wife and his love language is part of our pre-marriage counseling. Is there something you're not telling us? I think, Sean, what you're insinuating is whether or not I'm engaged or anything like that. No, I'm not. But I've been fascinated by the love languages for a long time, even just with my family, like my parents. We had talks about the love languages when we were pretty young, whenever the book first came out, I think. So it's been something that's been interesting to me, both for romantic relationships and for friendships. For a long time, and even I think it applies to business as well. What is exciting to me and makes me feel excited and loved in the gaming world might be different than what is exciting and making you feel loved in the gaming world. So I try to keep that in mind throughout all the facets of life. I think it applies to everything, not just romantic relationships. Let me see if there's any other topics that I haven't covered real quick. Just some fun stuff. I went to a little fun Halloween party the other day. Had a good time there. We went to the farmer's market, played some disc golf, and I tried the best vegetarian fried chicken that I've ever had. Ever since going vegetarian a couple years ago, the thing that I miss the most is fried chicken. I really love fried chicken. And we found a place called Sweet Art here in St. Louis that was recommended to me by Dwayne and Alicia from Blackboard Gaming. They came to St. Louis and tried it out and recommended it, and they were right. Sweet Art has a really, really good fried chicken sandwich. Chad says that he went to see a movie at 1 p.m. on a Wednesday after it was out only for a couple of weeks. He was the only one in the theater. And that might be my approach. That might be my approach to try it, to go randomly on a weekday at a mid-afternoon time. That after the movie's been out for a week or two, that's probably a good way to go, I think. And Eternals does seem really cool to see on the big screen. I would love to see that on the big screen. Thank you to, let's see who posted it for Laura. Christoph says he's still waiting for that disc golf Easter egg in one of our games. I don't think I have put a disc golf Easter egg. We do have something disc golf related that's planned, but not necessarily connected to one of our games. Here's Tim joining us from Scotland. He says daylight saving times messed it up again. Did you already have daylight saving time in Scotland? We don't have ours in the U.S. until Saturday night or early Sunday morning this weekend. So if you are in the U.S., daylight saving time is coming up this weekend. Remember to fall back. Laura says she'll check out the replay later. Thanks, Laura. Yeah, I will post this video on YouTube later. Hopefully the audio will work fine for that download and upload. I will check it though. Although if it doesn't work, there isn't much I can do. So hopefully I'll just cross my fingers that it does work. Mark says, am I brand specific on what you throw for disc golf? If so, which company? I generally throw Innova discs, but I'm happy to throw any disc that works for me. Like I have a Buzz that I really love. I don't think Buzz is an Innova disc. I also have a Bullfrog. Bullfrog might be Innova, but I love my Bullfrog for putting. I did have like one of my best rounds this past weekend. It was a great round for me, and then a slightly poorer round for one of my friends who has gotten really, really good. And so we actually came down to the wire and had a tiebreaker at the end between me and the number one guy in our group. Megan also had a great day. She had 3 pars. I think I had 5 birdies, which might be a record for me. But yeah, that's all disc golf talk. It looks like we're at 11 right now, so I have to go cook lunch. I promised Megan I would cook some lunch today. We're having some ravioli and Alfredo sauce. But thank you so much for joining me today. These questions are wonderful. I love your enthusiasm about the Tapestry expansion, and I look forward to revealing more about it in the coming days, and starting tomorrow, where I'll post about it in the Tapestry Facebook group, on the Stonemaier Games website, and some on Instagram as well, if you want to check that out. All right. Have a great day and a great week. I'll see you next Wednesday. Take care. Bye.